From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on Ag Day, 3 big stories we're following. The latest on the tentative agreement on the Farm Bill and what that new bill might contain. The new USMCA signed.
Yes, it is good for the U.S. dairy industry.
And not everyone is happy about it.
This is a dark day in the history of dairy farming in Canada.
And the leaders of the U.S. and China finally meet at the G20.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. We have lots to get to this morning, starting with the latest on the G20 meeting in Argentina. All eyes over the weekend focused on a possible deal being reached between President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping to end the trade war between the two countries.
The relationship is very special, the relationship that I have with President Xi.
The White House calling a dinner meeting between the two sides Saturday night highly successful, both agreeing to a 90-day ceasefire in the trade dispute between the two countries. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders saying President Trump will leave the tariffs currently in place on $200 billion worth of products at a 10% rate and not raise it as planned on January 1st. China, in turn, has agreed to buy a not yet agreed upon, but what is being called very substantial amount of agricultural, energy, industrial, and other products from the U.S. And those agricultural buys from the U.S. are said to be happening immediately. Some analysts think the buying may have already started.
We all know that last week they announced that they did purchase 9,400 tons of U.S. pork. That was kind of a sleight of hand of what was going on. We also saw 2 sales of soybeans to the unknown category. Suspicious to me that could have been also China, as long as those traders knew that those boats would be unloaded.
My big question mark is, will China come in and buy U.S. soybeans despite the fact that a 25% tariff remains in place? Could they still buy their beans from Brazil despite the fact that we have some progress on the trade front? Remember that we've passed through the big export window for U.S. soybeans. The best months for U.S. exporters have really passed September, October, November. That's when we do the majority of our business. Could we sell some beans to China in the next couple of months prior to Brazilian harvest? I suppose that's certainly a possibility. I'm left with a question here regarding the tariffs, and we've still got a tariff on U.S. soybeans.
The two sides also agreeing to immediately begin negotiations on several other things, including forced technology transfer, intellectual property protection, and non-tariff barriers in agriculture. Now, both sides say they will deal with these items over the next 90 days. But if they are unable to reach a deal, the 10% tariffs will then be raised to 25%. Now, we kept you updated all weekend long on AgDay Twitter and Facebook pages as the deal went down, and we'll continue to keep you updated on air and online. So stay with us for the latest developments. Happening on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Argentina, President Trump joined the leaders of Mexico and Canada in signing a revised North American trade deal. The president, along with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and outgoing Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, signed the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. It will replace the North American Free Trade Agreement. President Trump has long raged against NAFTA. He announced the new agreement, quote, changes the trade landscape forever.
This has been a battle, and battles sometimes make great friendships, so it's really terrific. With our signatures today, we will formally declare the intention of our 3 countries to replace NAFTA with the USMCA, a truly groundbreaking achievement, modern-day agreement.
Still hanging over the new deal are the steel and aluminum tariffs issued by the U.S., followed by retaliatory tariffs placed on ag goods in Canada and Mexico. Those duties are curbing exports of things like potatoes, cheese, and pork. Lawmakers in each country must still ratify the deal, and aboard Air Force One, while returning from Argentina, President Trump announcing he will give formal notice to Congress in the near future to terminate the old NAFTA plan, giving lawmakers 6 months to approve the deal he signed or come up with a new one. The U.S. dairy industry could be impacted the most by the USMCA deal, as producers hope it will increase more access for U.S. dairy products in Canada. But while the U.S. dairy industry says it may be a good deal for them, our partners to the north in the Canadian dairy industry, they're not so sure. Betsy Gibbon joins us now with more on that. Betsy.
Clinton, the Canadian dairy industry having its reservations on the updated USMCA deal as the U.S. hopes a deal can be completed.
You guys will hold that up.
USMCA has been signed, a day the U.S. dairy industry has been awaiting.
Yes, it is good for the U.S. dairy industry.
Yet the Canadian dairy industry feels differently about the roughly 3.6% market access.
This is a dark day in the history of dairy farming in Canada.
The verbiage gives the U.S. some oversight over Canadian policies, possibly limiting what Canada may be able to export.
The hang-up that we are hearing about and seeing right now are those transparency measures when it comes to us having additional oversight and additional access into the information that they're using to price their dairy products in Canada.
The Canadian dairy industry says it's concerned and disappointed in Trudeau.
But now, he further harms Canadian dairy families by signing the final version of USMCA. By granting oversight to the U.S. in the administration of our dairy system, not only is he reneging on his government's commitment, but he's giving up our Canadian sovereignty.
All three governmental bodies need to ratify the agreement, yet the U.S. dairy industry hopes a deal gets done.
It's very important for the North America and Canadian economies that we do have a trilateral agreement. And so I think there is, I think hopefully the positives will outweigh, what they see as concerns in Canada.
Staffaker says Mexico is a larger market for the U.S. dairy industry. USMCA news is a huge positive in that aspect.
All right, thanks, Betsy. And we're also continuing to keep watch on the Farm Bill, specifically what's in the new tentative agreement. According to our Washington reporter, Jim Wiesmeyer, we should see the bill's conference report early this week. He's reporting all producers will be able to update yields beginning with the 2020 crop year, but not base acres. He says base acres in grass will qualify for new conservation incentives. Farmers will be able to elect annually whether to use the ARC or PLC programs beginning with the 2021 crop. Increases to loan rates are also expected to be included. Now, sources say industrial hemp language made the cut in this bill, and if passed, industrial hemp would be removed from the Controlled Substances Act. The tentative farm bill scraps a plan backed by House Republicans and President Trump that would have added new work requirements for some food stamp recipients. Lawmakers expect to vote on the bill possibly this week. EPA releasing the 2019 volume obligations within the renewable fuel standard. Now, renewable fuels groups wasting no time to deter the good news by saying EPA missed the opportunity to make things right with those hardship waivers being given to big refineries. As expected, EPA raising the total 2019 renewable fuel volume, which is set by the RFS. The new conventional ethanol volume target, 15 billion gallons. The 2019 cellulosic biofuels level, it's set at 418 million gallons. The Growth Energy and NCGA saying the numbers are a victory, but they're also firing back that the new numbers don't account for those recent small refinery waivers. The group say those exemptions for oil refiners have displaced 2.25 billion gallons of ethanol so far. And the group say the waivers mean current RFS obligations are not being met. Mother Nature can also be pretty spectacular at times, as meteorologist David Harker shows us in today's Crop Comments. David.
You never get tired of seeing this. Another fantastic sunset. Now, this photo was shared on Twitter with us by the cleverly titled Mr. Pigweed. Now, he says this is what the West Texas cotton harvest sunset looked like last week, and it just doesn't get much better than that. Keep sharing those amazing farm photos with us on AgDay's Twitter and Facebook pages. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what the jet stream is likely to be as we look to the first half of this new week in December. And you'll notice a lot of colder air reaching portions of the Great Lakes in the northeast, while areas down south are likely to remain warm and above normal precipitation wise. I'm going to talk all about that as we look to our forecast coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Still ahead, how much crop is left out in the fields and how big of an impact could that have on prices? We'll have some analysis coming up. And later, new help for the harvest that never complains no matter the weather.
All in a Row, a new resource for crop and farm management information, is brought to you by Farm Journal and Valent USA.
Harvest still crawling along, so how much is left out in the field right now? Tyne Morgan has more from the AgDay Business Desk.
Here now with Mark Gold on AgDay. You know, looking at harvest numbers, harvest progress, we know it's been a crawl for some of you. And as in some cases, Mark, we still have snow on some soybeans, on some corn. It's just been an issue. How much crop do you think is really left in this field right now?
Well, the estimates are, somewhere around 700 million bushels of corn are still out there. There's maybe 300 million bushels of beans still out there. It's a significant number. Now, guys will be able to get some of that corn in, whether it's early spring or at some other point. There will be damage to the corn. It's not going to be great, but we're not going to lose 700 million bushels of corn because it's still out in the field. The beans, on the other hand, you're going to do a lot more damage with the beans than you are with the corn. And if those beans don't come in, and when they do come in, if they're shattered beans, if they're low quality, if they're damaged beans, whatever, that could make an impact. Now, when you're looking at a 900 million, give or take, carry out, does 200 million make a difference? Yeah, it does. It takes that enormous potential weight and shaves it, 10, 20%. So that's helpful. But when it's all said and done, I think the American farmers still do a good job of getting these crops out of the ground and into the bins.
We know there's still a lot of harvest to be done in some cases, but if we are losing some of this crop in the field, where does that show up? Where would we see that? What do we need to watch?
Well, you're not going to see it for a while because if it's the corn in particular, if it's staying out there, once that's harvested, you'll see it in stocks in all positions. Reports maybe as late as the end of June.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough number to get a good handle on. And guys will trade the ability of it not to know where we are right now. So that'll go back and forth for a while.
But really quickly, do you think in the next USDA report we do see a reduction in the national yield for both corn and soy?
I think you've got to with this harvest activity, yeah.
But not a considerable amount? And not enough to move the market?
I think it could move the market. That's why I'm not overly bearish in here, even if we don't have a trade agreement.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark Gold. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have much more right here on AgDay.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343. You could win a Ford F-150 Raptor in the Ag Explore Truck Sweepstakes. Enter at trucksweeps.com.
Welcome back to AgDay. Here, meteorologist David Harker. David, this is probably the hardest map you've had to make all week.
Oh my goodness, I had to put so much work into this.
Just paint it blue?
Exactly, and this goes to show you exactly what the next 7 to 10 days is likely to be like. Everyone below normal. While everyone is below normal, I think it's the Ohio River Valley into the southern plain states as well as the Northeast that has the biggest chance of being below normal. Certainly in southern Florida as well as out west and extreme western California, we're likely to see normal. But I mean, this is just quite cold compared to where we typically would be. Now, you take a look at the jet stream map, and I showed this a bit ago, that this big surge of colder air stretching in as we look to the first part of the first week of December. Yeah, I can't believe we're already in the month of December. And look at that, just in time for the first couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're back down into the 30s as highs, and this will stretch throughout most of Ohio, into the Ohio River Valley, into Kentucky, and into the Virginias. Colder air also means a change in precipitation to snow showers, whereas the rain was making its way up from the deep south as well as into the Great Lakes for the past weekend. Now, as we move a bit further in time, the colder air persists up north, including the Northeast, and it's more of a mild pattern, whether it be out west in California, down in South Texas, up through the northern plain states, and even into the Southeast, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. We focus into the new weekend, the first full weekend, second full weekend in December, and you find that another low pressure system is going to bring more precipitation
into the Ohio River Valley. So let's go ahead and focus on precipitation throughout the week. Most of it's going to be centered down into the deep south as well as the west and even into the Atlantic coastal regions. It looks to be drier than normal as we look to the Great Lakes, or at least portions of Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and through Iowa, stretching all the way back out to Idaho. When we start talking 30-day precipitation, we find that it changes just a bit. Most of the south normal precipitation over the next 30 days through the entire month of December. It tends to pick up a bit once you make your way into areas of Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Colorado. We also find that in the Atlantic coastal regions too. When we start talking temperatures, it's still below normal in the Great Lakes region. We're still talking temperatures at least 5 to 10 degrees below the numbers, close to 40 degrees where we usually would see our highs to start out December, and it looks to be above normal as we stretch even further out west into California, Nebraska, or rather Nevada, and even into South Texas. Let's go ahead and take a look at conditions near you. In Willis, California, we've got sunshine early with clouds back in town late, a high temperature of 48. Out in Nebraska, Fremont, Nebraska to be exact, 24 after the snow showers from the weekend. And Sandersville, Georgia, showers and thunderstorms and a high of 68.
You probably didn't notice this came and went on Friday, but many are glad it's finally over. Friday marking the end of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. And what a season it was. This is a NOAA time-lapse of the entire hurricane season in less than a minute. The season will be remembered most for the destruction caused by Hurricanes Florence and Michael. The season produced a total of 15 named storms, including 8 hurricanes, 2 of which were major. NOAA says an average season has 12 named storms. Late harvest means getting down in the dirt and mud to bring in the crops. Could track equipment help keep you unstuck? Machinery Pete's looking for deals out in the field. Next. Lots of people are sharing pictures with us of having to work in muddy fields because of this late harvest. Well, Machinery Pete decided to see if tracks are a hot commodity right now.
Hey folks, Machinery Pete here on the ground reporting out in west central Minnesota, a little farming community of Barrett. We're filming a farm retirement auction out here today for our Machinery Pete show. Retirement auction for Connie and Randy Reese. Beautiful line of machinery. Now one of the reasons we were interested in coming out here was they have track equipment, 2 quad tracks and tracks on their combine. And this particular area, west central Minnesota, actually just finishing harvest, really wet, late harvest out here. So interested to see if the demand would be there on these tracks, and boy, I tell you, it was. The 2014 KSH 500 quad track, 1,551 hours on it, sold for $225,000. Now just 8 months ago, we saw a similar one sell for $211,000. The really hot bidding today on the 2012 550 quad track that had 2,248 hours, and that sold for $232,000. So again, premium price there. And you might be able to see in the background there the 2011 KSH 9120T combine, 1,974 engine hours on it. That came in at $177,500. So more proof here today. Good, strong buyer demand on good condition track equipment.
New help out in the fields these days? Why, Tom doesn't mind getting down in the dirt. Next in the country.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Discover the power behind the M6 series at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Dealing with seesawing commodity prices, trying to work more efficiently, all while staying environmentally friendly. It's a struggle every producer faces, but a British startup thinks it has the answer. They've created this 4-wheeled robot. They've named it Tom. It uses GPS, artificial intelligence, and smartphone technology to digitally map a field. Jamie Butler's trying out a new worker on his 450-acre farm in England's Hampshire countryside. Tom's job right now is to inspect the winter wheat crop for weeds and pests. He doesn't complain or even break a sweat. Tom's creator, the Small Robot Company, is part of a wave of agri-tech startups.
Once you have got a kind of digital view of the field, then there's lots and lots of improvements you can make to the way that we farm the land. So you can reduce hugely the amount of chemicals, for example, you might need to apply to the ground. If you know exactly where plants are having problems and where they need some help, and you can be very, very precise about where you put that expensive effort. So that means you can grow more for less on the farm.
Next year, the British startup plans to start testing 2 more robots controlled by an artificial intelligence system that will work alongside Tom. They will do precision seeding, feeding, and weeding. By the way, they're named Dick and Harry. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Brave new world that we have here. Well, if you like Ag Tech, I'll be at Farm Journal's Ag Tech event later today and Tuesday in Indianapolis. I hope to see you there. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great one.